Do Hard Things Video Reflection 3, Chapter 4 Questions. Number 1, Magnus describes or defines confidence throughout this chapter. Cite one of his definitions or descriptions and include the page number. The definition of confidence that I pulled away from this one, or I'm going to use for this, is found on page 64 and 65. I'm going to just read this paragraph off page 64, though, because I feel like it is a very interesting way to describe confidence, and I find myself agreeing with it. Confidence is a filter tinting how we see the challenges before us and our ability to handle them. It tips the scales towards an optimistic or pessimistic view of our current situation. When our confidence is high, we're able to cope with the demands of the event. We can manage our fears and doubts, quiet the negative voices, and redirect our focus to the task at hand. Confidence expands our ability to act, to manage, and to make our way through difficult situations. Confidence and toughness go hand in hand. Just previously, the page or two beforehand, he distinguishes it from confidence just appearing simple. I mean, you see that all over the place. He says it's just the believe in yourself description of confidence. You got that in schools throughout the country, teaching kids. It's all over posters. You can find it anywhere. And he dives in with this definition much deeper than just believing in yourself and what you can do. Question 2, in chapter 4, Magnus refers to an action crisis. What is this? And has there been a time when you've experienced this? On page 75, he describes an action crisis. Is one when we can't back up our bark, when we're aware of it, when we're overconfident and we're basically setting ourselves up for failure. This can happen anywhere: competing in sports, staying in a relationship, quitting your job, deciding to quit your job. It's feeling confident in the beginning, but once you come face to face with the reality that you're going to fail or you're going to fall short of your goals that you have set, that is what is called an action crisis. We shift from being goal-directed, where the motivation was to achieve what we've started, what we were focused on, and to a state where negative thoughts and sensations now exist and persist. Instead of pushing ourselves to succeed, that false confidence sways us and pushes us towards completely abandoning the goal that we set out to do from the jump. Has there been a time when you've experienced this? Yes, a couple different examples that I thought. I mean, anything in sports where I was way overconfident in, I'd say football, way overconfident in our abilities as not only a team, as a player in general. I won one game, and I was on varsity for 4 years. So we were very bad, but at the start we were so confident. Yes, we got this, right? Then all of a sudden, you drop the first 3-4 games, and all of a sudden, you go in the game, you already know you're done. Abandoning everything, like, okay, this ain't gonna work. This coach isn't good. Instead of trying to win, it was more so just abandon it. Just try to keep the game within 20 points. Keep the game within. Avoid running clock. And I'd say I've also experienced this when I quit a job and didn't really. Confident. Yes, it's a great idea. If you don't got anything backed up, you're now rushing to either find something where you were set out to do this through your job, and now you can't because you quit it, or vice versa. Anything with that as well. Question 3. Magnus provides a process to create inner confidence. Which of these 4 steps do you think is the most challenging? The 4 steps: lower the bar, raise the floor, shed perfection, embrace who you are, trust your training, trust yourself, and develop a quiet ego. The one that I'm going to pick out is lower the bar, raise the floor. That's the first one. On page 78. And I am picking this one because it's just the most unique, different thing. Never really thought of it this way in terms of confidence. Yes, obviously, everyone talks about embracing who you are, trusting yourself, quiet ego, all those things you hear from everyone talking about. Stay confident, be confident. Lowering the bar in terms of expectations that you set for yourself. I feel like I always set very high expectations and goals for myself. And if I would lower those, where everyone has a bad day, it talks about in here, if you lower those and raise the floor for what you can do, your bad days are now still higher. You're passing expectations higher than what you would be if you have the bar set super high the whole time. So raising the floor, and even on the bad days, and you're consistent. You're not failing as much, so your confidence remains high. The chapter 5 questions. Number 1, Magnus described the concept of learned helplessness. How would you describe this, and when have you seen learned helplessness in action? So learned helplessness is talked about here on page 87. It was right after the dogs, they had put the dogs in the cage and were shocking them. And it just talks about how when you don't have any control and you just can't, you can't stop what's happening. The pain that they were suffering was completely outside their control. There was nothing that you could do. You just begin to accept the fact that it's going to happen, and you just take it. You don't do anything about it because you really can't do anything about it. They also tried this with rats, and I think they talked about it in terms of the military in establishing toughness. Oh yeah, and modern workplaces, sports leagues, and even schools. It's that's the one I'm gonna use. Schools. How was I gonna describe this now? I think I look at it in terms of learned helplessness in action. I think one example would be taking a test, and you like to make the excuse, or I can make the excuse. You hear it all over the place. if the average score was low on a test, like let's say the teacher's got to curve it, I would say that the excuse is often said it's completely out of your control. You just go. Everyone knows that the average score in the class is low, so you just take it. You don't need to study as much. I mean, you put in all this work, you're still going to get a bad grade just because the teacher doesn't like to give out good grades. The test is hard. The class itself, the content is just challenging to learn, and you just essentially take it and you don't do anything more to it because there's nothing that you can really control. Number 2, Magnus. Wow, I'm really running out of time. Magnus mentions that there is a cure for give-up-itis. What is give-up-itis, and how does this relate to his later reference of self-determination? So, give-up-itis. Right here on page 90. Give-up-itis is a progression through 5 stages. Starts with a general withdrawal before turning into apathy, loss of emotional response, lack of response to any external stimulus. Along the way, motivation to do menial tasks erodes until the simplest tasks can no longer be completed. Listlessness takes over, and the last stage is psychogenic death. Things that he says that we should do: shave and stand tall, control what you can, don't dissimulate yourself from advice from other people. The sensation of choice indicates a reversal of mental defeat and the reimposition of some personal control over the situation, which is a key factor in recovery. Give-up-itis is a clinical expression of mental defeat, in particular to a pathology of a normal passive coping response. I think it just talks about that. Death isn't the only end result here. It relates to his later reference of self-determination and how we go about doing things. I mean, if we're determined, I think I'd like to take it back to the raising the floor, lowering the bar. You're determined to do stuff. You're responsive to do everything. If you keep it minuscule or smaller, easier, not as drastic, the chance of giving up will be decreased. And finally, question 3. Wow, this went pretty long today. Share a time when you increase your toughness by taking control of something. I would say moving out of or going off to college. Yes, parents try to push you to do things. Getting a job on your own when you're after 18, after high school, paying for bills, taking control of the situation made me tougher because now I'm exposed to here, this is a budget, this is what I need to do. I need to do this to survive, getting food, taking care of myself. By taking control of that, putting me in control and not having my parents do all of that for me, only made me tougher for the real world and all the situations that we may face. Sorry I went a bit longer today. Thank you.